Hello everyone, this is Duncan Kenneth Bailey here, and today I'm going to show you a shorter haircut on my client right here. And the primary thing that we're looking for here in this explanation is how I would cut the top. I specifically received a question on Instagram about this, so later in this video we'll see that come by. Now, as you can see, I'm going to wrap up the client, then grab my clip. Make sure the client is comfortable, a piece of paper for the neck to make sure that the cotton cape does not touch every patron's neck that is in your chair. There's a little bit of hygiene. See, adjustments here and there to make sure it is comfortable. And then we're going to get into wetting the hair thoroughly. So as you can see, we spray and we squeeze the trigger all the way, or at least as far as it will go. And we'll make sure that the hair is sufficiently wet. This will help with the ease of sectioning and making sure that it is not like a shower, so your client doesn't need to necessarily be covered in water, but we do, as you can see, want to divide the water properly throughout all the hair itself. Hence the combing up and down and back and forth as well a little bit, getting it divided properly. From there, we will set the water aside. We will take our cutting comb and we will start with the sectioning of our baseline. Now from here, as you can see, I will make a little start, and then from there use the comb to set in that one line on the parietal ridge that will work and function as my guideline, to which I will choose the corner and set the length on the sides to create the weight on that corner. Comb that out thoroughly, making sure it's all nice and clean. Then we go to the other side. As you can already see, I'm dipping slightly in the back, moving with the shape of the skull, making sure that that will end up in a nice and clean V shape. The primary reason I do this is to make sure that the occipital bone is kept safe, or at least safe enough that if I'm working on the sides and cutting a certain length, that I will not cut it too short on the occipital itself, creating a problem for myself. Also with regards to the crown area being kept safe as well, making sure that the hair on the top is not cut too short so that the crown starts jumping. Now, as you can see, the guideline on the left side needed a slight adjustment in height, so don't be afraid to do that. Clean up the V in the back, combing all the hair forward out of the way of my baselines, lifting it up ever so slightly in the front so that it doesn't fall on the forehead of the client itself. If the hair is longer, you can work with a clip if you want to. In this case, as you can see, the hair is short enough that it will lay on itself without any problem, so I do not need to. Then we're going to cross over to using our clipper comb and our clipper itself. And we will start by determining the length that we want on the sides of the baseline. I will lift the hair as high as possible toward that 90 degrees of the baseline itself, making sure that all the hair that I don't want to cut is out of the way. Adjustments, and then lifting, taking the clipper, angling if necessary, and working my way structurally around the side towards the back of the head. Make sure here that you follow your set path, so don't go back and forth whilst you're creating this length and line. Only go back if you need to just give it that double check if necessary. Then we will go into diagonal sections. Normally you would do this with the scissors on the fingers. And in this case, as you can see, given that it's barbering, we will use the clipper comb and the clipper itself. Now, there is, of course, not a big deal of difference here. The fingers might be a bit more precise, but then again, with the comb, you can get a little bit closer to the head and you tend to grab up a little bit more hair. But that is the only difference usually in preference of barbering and hairdressing. Now, as you can see, again, I'm following my set structure, working my way down the sides, following my baseline as my guideline, working myself into the back, into that V shape. Going to go over it again, just to be sure, going a little bit lower, See, working my way into the sideburns a little bit, getting that prepared for later. You'll see me do this more often, where I'll go over the sides and check and check and check, just to make sure that all the connections on the sides that I have are made. As you can also see, a little bit more careful around the ear, making sure that the clipper blades do not touch it. Ears are notorious for when they start bleeding that they do not want to stop. And getting back to it, one of the most important things, structure, structure, structure. So you see me working my lines, following myself from front to back. Now starting behind the ear, making sure I get a little bit lower again. Slowly working my way towards the neck area. And as you can see, clipper over comb, you can get a lot done on the sides. There are probably some details here and there, but most of the hair has been cut to a nice length now, and we can always go shorter if necessary. But this is a very safe, in my opinion anyway, a very safe and a very controlled manner of work. Keep combing, keep checking around the ears as well, making sure that's clean enough that when I want to go down the sides and do things like contour lines and everything, that can be done. So now we're setting in our taper fade in the back, making sure that it is all nice and clean. So in this case, what I'll do, I'll start with my clipper closed at the bottom and then slowly work my way up. Now, if you're starting off, I tend to not advise this because the risk you run of pushing it too high is real. I would always advise you to work top to bottom. But as you gain a bit more experience, sometimes, especially with people with heavy crowns in the neck and everything, it is nice to be able to work from the bottom to the top, getting a nice guide in there and working your way up from the guide and knowing where you have to meet yourself. So as you can see, structurally, again, I'm working up from that 0 point all the way up to my half size guard now, and then gonna go up to a 1 and continue further, making sure that the fade on the back is looking nice. Switching to my number 1, going for the next leg of it, I always end up with an open clipper guard and then work my way up to the closed guard of the next step, and then open up 1 click, open it up 2 clicks, 3 clicks, and then 4, and going and moving from there. Again, keeping it very structured, keeping it very steady, because consistency in this case is key. From here with the number 1, as you can see, I can go back to my clipper comb because those will connect, and I will make sure that the hair on the back connects all the way through into what I've previously cut with my clipper comb on the sides. Then we are going to focus on the top of the head, so we're going to section off the back at first, getting everything nicely and cleanly split up. In this case, I'm also looking at his crown, that is quite prominent, so I want to make sure that the hair on that back, besides the fact being of course connected down to the baseline, will also kind of respect the crown as much as possible, so the flow of the hair itself, or the direction of the hair itself, is still respected. And as you can see, I do that by playing up the hair a little bit, seeing where the crown wants to fall open. And then as you can see, I'm laying the hair on the back round with the rest, or with that crown itself, making sure that that's nice and clean, so that from there I can start connecting on the fingers whatever it needs, all the way again down to the back, using my baseline as my guide and going from there. So you know, comb it in position again, making sure that it sits properly with the baseline itself. Now, as you can also see, what's very important here is that the hair, where it comes from, where it spawns from on the head, and where it needs to be connected, is always relative to the position that it wants to fall in. I don't pull it straight down from where it comes out to the skin. I lay it down in the direction that it wants to lay in, meaning that sometimes hair can lay a few centimeters off to the left or to the right when you're trying to cut and connect it. Then we are going to go for the front. Now, given that this is a fairly short haircut, I'm going to first comb it over to the side, making sure that it's all nice and clean, and then connected to the baseline. If the hair were longer, I would still go for that triangle, but in this case we are going to connect all the hair from the front down onto the baseline itself, so I don't necessarily need that extra section. This only applies to the shorter haircuts. I'm going to follow my line through, again combing on the fingers, not too much tension, leaving the hair as natural as possible, combing it through, going to the other side. Now as you can see here, I'm going to comb counter the direction of the crown itself, so I'm going to be fairly careful, don't want to lay everything over. Again, putting my finger underneath the baseline with the hair from the top on top of the baseline so I can see that difference, and then getting that connection in first, and from here, because the hair twists a certain direction, I am going to, as you can see, leave it ever so slightly longer, angling so that I get a little bit more length in the front that I can comb round with the rest. And from here, because we also want to lose some length in that front, I'm going to connect and follow it through so that it doesn't have a disconnection over there, and then I'll comb it in back into its position. Again, this specifically only goes for clients who wear their hair without a side parting, who just want to comb it through all the way round. As you can see, I find my previous connection on the front of the hair, combing it through, see, only taking that little bit that sticks out, and then we run towards that front and find that last little piece where I will be able to connect it back again to the baseline that I've already set. That's the front done. Now we're going to go for the top itself. And this top we are going to blow dry properly. So I'm getting some grooming tonic into his hair by Rösel, making sure that it's nicely divided over the roots and the length of the hair itself. Grabbing the blow dryer, I've taken off the nozzle in this case because I want the most spread over the hair itself, so I can really get it to blow dry quite equally all round. As you can also see, there's a red glow coming from the blow dryer itself. Now that is not heat, but that is actually an infrared light that Kiona has installed into their blow dryer, which I am quite happy with. It doesn't really apply to me because I don't dye or color hair, as you would say. So for me, the only function that it has is I don't have to set the blow dryer at full heat to get the hair to dry. So it's a little bit more friendly for the hair and the skin itself. Despite the fact that the grooming tonic of Rösel has a little bit of a heat protector in there, it is always a nice extra touch. And it's interesting, a little bit of science to get an actual infrared tube in your blow dryer that helps dry the hair more from the inside out than from the heat going from the outside in. Now, as you can see, I'm quite loosely blow drying here. At first, as you could see, making sure that the crown area is blow dried in properly. And then I will start lifting up the front. So I'm really just I'm still working in structure, but in this case, I'm blow drying a lot looser than I would normally do. But that, at the end of the day, will fit the end style of this gentleman's haircut. Working with the fingers a lot, making sure that it still maintains its texture as I'm blow drying it, because I don't want it to be smooth or anything. So just really massaging it a lot, twerking, tweaking it a lot, working with it, making sure the air gets through the hair itself and all the way dry from the roots up. Now we're going to blend the top of the hair is what we're looking for. So I'm going to comb everything over towards the direction where the hair wants to fall, and I'm going to use my blending scissor to adjust the length on the top itself. What I like about this is that you can get a really nice square finish on top, or flat finish on top, without the hair being flat on a more microscopic level, given the fact that the blending scissor in this case is also creating a slight bit of effilation in the tips of the hair. So it's not used to thin out the hair in this case, it is used to polish the top to make that look smoother. And working through that top just piece by piece, starting in front where the hair will be the shortest length that I want to use, and then adjusting the rest of the haircut to that. Freeing up the hairs on occasion. I don't do the spinny thing with the scissors on my fingers because I'm too afraid that I'm going to toss my scissors up against the wall, so I will quite gently use my comb to tap hair away out of the scissors. Again, running through it, going all the way down to that crown area, lifting the hair up with my comb, running through it. Again, tapping the hair out of the scissors instead of doing the cool spinning motions that everybody does on social media nowadays. Doing a quick cross check, making sure that I have everything as square as possible everywhere. Running through it. There we go. Grab the corners. Work the corners a little bit. Now, this does polish the top, and we're definitely going to add some texture after this. More towards the end of the video, but this is purely to take off some length, to get that length a bit more equal with still having a cleaner finish. You could do this with regular scissors, but with regular scissors you will miss that slight bit of effilation that the hair would need to look slightly smoother. Adjusting the front. I always do this with him because his front tends to want to, as you can see, flip up a little bit. But just making that slight adjustment, making sure that front is all nice and equal too. Then we're going to go over to the next stage. What I'm doing here is using the clipper and the comb to fade what normally could be done with guards, as you saw in the neck. I'm now using a clipper and a comb to fade out the sides, make them a bit more smooth. And of course, adjustments here and there where necessary. I love using this and switching it up on occasion because using guards all day is great and they're great tools, but again, it's fun sometimes to challenge yourself a little bit to use some other tools or tools that you might not expect to do haircuts as well. Keeps yourself a bit sharper. So now we're going to go to the top of the hair and we're going to apply what I like to call, or what is normally known as channel cutting. So I'm combing the hair all forward and taking my regular scissor and not closing it in full, but I'm sliding through the hair and only letting the back of the scissor blades go through it. And I'm cutting equally parallel channels through the top of the hair without removing too much. As you can see, that definitely some hair comes out, but this is not losing length. This is cutting literal or slicing literal channels into the hair itself. Now you can already see the lines, and what I will do is I'll do the same on the other side of the hair. And what that will eventually do is create like a diamond pattern, and those diamond patterns will be little tufts of hair, to put it that way, or little diamonds of hair that will add to the end texture on top. That will create a bit more movement and a bit more texture there. So that's the main reason why I do it. The main thing about it is to make sure that the lines are spaced out equally and that the lines are straight with the direction that you're going in. This choppiness is what it builds on the interior of the hair, so you don't have to rely on your product to create that texture in the hair itself. That's always the main thing. A hair that has texture created by product does not maintain itself. Hair that has been cut or has texture cut into it maintains it for a longer period of time. Now, as you can see, I'm making my final adjustments, playing with the hair, looking at everything on how he would wear it, and then adjusting where necessary. Then we're going to go into some blending of the sides. So I'm just going to comb everything down. This is just the polishing of the hair on the sides. Again, with the blending scissor, running through, making sure that I grab up everything that is necessary just to smooth it out a little bit. A line here and there, a bit of weight that still needs removing, or just some polishing in general, just to make everything a bit more smooth. Working my way through, as you can see, again following that structure of starting at the temples and working my way slowly towards the back of the head. Again, cleaning off the scissors without doing the spinny thing. And there we go over the back, running my way all the way through, all the way up to the top, blending it through, making sure it is nice and clean. Working my way through the back again, seeing a few pieces there that just need a slight touch, so not afraid to go back at it, making sure it's all nice and smooth, except for that top, of course, which is purposefully choppy. Now using the trimmer to set the outlines, the framing of the haircut. Now I do tend to do that quite naturally. Depending on the client, will make it quite sharp, but in most cases I prefer, and my clients as well, a more natural finish. As you can see, just the bottom of that sideburn as well. Getting back to that point, if people wear their sideburns quite purposefully deep down the side of the ear, then please keep that unless specified otherwise. For the rest of the outlines, again, keep it natural, but do make sure that they look nice and clean, so don't be afraid of going over it a few times. A bad outline can ruin a good haircut, as my old employee used to say, and a good outline can improve a bad haircut. That does not mean that we do bad haircuts and good outlines, but still it does go to say that, make a clean outline, make sure you finish that cut properly. As you can see here, I'm taking my time, folding the ears away, making sure that it's nice and clean, adjusting the client when necessary, getting a nice natural outline, nothing too pushed back or too pushed in, but just nice and clean. And now we're going to do the same on the other side. Just very quickly go past, again, framing is everything here. And the main thing, again, I can't stress this enough, is that I don't go into the hairline. I go past the hairline, making sure that it's nice and clean, but nothing that is pushed back. Then we're going to take some talcum powder, in this case in a very beautiful antique atomizer, and we're going to apply some of this talcum powder to the skin of the client. And as you can see, I primarily focus on the outlines in this case. What I like about this is that I can quite directly dose that talcum powder onto the skin itself, and I'm going to use that talcum powder to shave the outlines with a disposable razor, or disposable neck razor, or chevette as people like to call it. So a little bit more talcum powder. The reason I like talcum powder is because it doesn't wet the hair down anymore, in contrast to, let's say, gels, oils, or water. Water being one of the worst ones because it's not as frictionless as any other product. Foam will cover up what you're trying to see. So again, I prefer talcum powder because you can see through it, and talcum powder takes away that friction just enough so you can use your chevette to shave the contours clean. And also, I cannot stress this enough, a fresh razor blade for every new client. They're cheap enough that you can do that. So as you can see, stretching the skin properly with my thumb, making sure that everything is nice and clean. This is just to tighten it up a little bit, just those little pale or white or fuzzy hairs that your trimmer won't necessarily grab. You can remove with these, or with the chevette itself and a little bit of talcum powder. Just again going all the way around. First, of course, the temple areas and around the ears, and then I'll go around the neck ever so slowly, just gently shaving the neck out. I'm always very careful with that to make sure that I do not irritate the skin of the client. And again, just enough stretch to make sure it's nice and tight, but just be careful with how you're using your razor, of course. Don't use the corner too much. Try to use as much of the blade as possible. Cleaning off some excess hair. A little bit down the side for the sideburn, and then we're going to go around the ear. See, again, pulling the ear away from the skin so I can go counter the direction or up against my outline, making sure it's all nice and clean. There we go. And then we're going to get into the finishing touches. A little bit of backhand behind the ear because that makes the reach a little bit easier. And then after this, I'm going to just brush off the excess talcum powder and the hair that has come with it. And then we'll get into the final touches of styling. and finishing. As you can see, a little bit of brushing. Again, just to remove the excess talcum powder and some of the excess hair. This as well is an antique brush. The bristles are a little tougher than some of the modern, more makeup brush style brushes. Then we're going to take our product. In this case, I have used the 1950s matte paste that they have, which is sticky enough for his hair to stick together, matte enough to look natural, and strong enough to hold all day. And as you can see, I'm primarily just working with the fingers. His hair is obviously messy. He likes to wear it messy, so that's how I style it as well. I don't comb it tightly, I just run my fingers through it, making sure it's nice and roughed up, because that's the end look that we're going for in this case. Nothing clean, nothing too tight, just nice and choppy. And as you can see, the texture that I've added by doing the channel cutting with my scissors has created a more natural texture that will sit for the rest of the day and the remainder of the cut until he comes back in next time. Uncape him, get the clip off and everything. A little bit of extra dusting to get the rest of the hair that has managed to slip behind the cape or in between the gentleman and the hair or the chair itself. And of course the mirror, show him the back, show him what you did. This to me is very important, just to show him this is what we've done before you take any pictures or make videos like that. It's always about the client and not about yourself. And then as a finishing touch, a little bit of aftershave, because we have used a razor on the neck and the contour lines just to disinfect or to get rid of some irritation or prevent some irritation. We do a little bit of aftershave so that's all nicely disinfected around that outline and framing. And there we go. So that is the haircut. This is my first video that I've recorded in doing this, so I hope you guys like it. By request, especially with that texturing on the top. Anyway, this has been Duncan. Thank you for watching, and hopefully till next time.